As we all know, the rainbow is nature's most spectacular display of spectrum of light. But what exactly is this rainbow, and which are the processes which are responsible for this rainbow? So the processes which we have already learnt in optics, that is ray optics, okay, cause this rainbow. So the most important one is the refraction of light. Second one is the dispersion of light, and the third one is internal reflection of sunlight by a spherical raindrop. So a rainbow is produced by number 1 refraction, number 2 dispersion, and number 3 total internal reflection. So a rainbow is observed when the sun shines on raindrops during or after a shower, when it is raining or it has just rained. Okay, an observer standing with his back towards the sun observes it in the form of concentric circular arcs of different colors in the horizon. So the inner brighter rainbow is called as the primary rainbow. So we have something called as primary rainbow, and the outer fainter rainbow is called as the secondary rainbow. So inner brighter rainbow is called as the primary rainbow, and outer fainter rainbow is called as secondary rainbow. Now let us see what exactly is this primary rainbow, how the primary rainbow is formed, and how the secondary rainbow is formed, little bit in detail. So the primary rainbow is formed by the rays which undergo one internal reflection. So there will be one internal reflection inside the raindrop, okay, and there will be two refractions. There will be two refractions, and finally the ray is going to emerge out from the rainbow at minimum deviation. In case of a secondary rainbow, the secondary rainbow will be formed by the rays which undergoes two internal reflection. There will be two internal reflections which are happening over here, and two refractions which are happening. That is why the intensity of ray which is coming out from the rainbow becomes less, and it is seen fainter as compared to the primary rainbow. And primary rainbow is more intense, it is more brighter, okay, because there is only one internal reflection happening over here, and there are two internal reflections happening over here. That is why the secondary rainbow is fainter. So in the secondary rainbow we are going to have two internal reflections and two refractions before the ray emerges out from the raindrop with minimum deviation. So now let us see what exactly happens in a raindrop when we get a primary rainbow. So supposing we have a sunlight this side, the sun rays are coming from this side. So let us draw a sun ray, something like this. So when the sun ray falls on the raindrop, there will be a refraction happening over here, because this is interface, there are two mediums, so change in medium is happening. So there will be refraction happening over here, as well as there will be dispersion of light. This white light which is coming from the sun would be split into 7 different colors. Okay, so then we are going to get 7 different colors over here. That is going to be the dispersion of light. So now this is going to split into different colors. So let us draw the top and the bottom color, that is going to be red and violet. So let this be the red color, okay, and I will use blue color as a violet, indicating the violet. So this is going to be the dispersion of light happening. So this is, let's consider this is violet, okay, and the red color. So now there will be internal reflection happening over here, okay, so this is going to be getting internally reflected. So this ray of light would be falling something like this over here, something like this. Again, this light would also get reflected, internally reflected, and at this interface again there will be change in medium, so there will be refraction happening. So this ray of light would be coming out like this, okay, and this will be another ray of light which will be coming like this. Okay, so let's mark the arrows. So there will be two refractions happening and there will be one internal reflection happening over here. Okay, so the red light or the red rays emerge from the water drop at an angle of 43 degrees, and the violet light would emerge at another angle of 41 degrees. So if the observer is over here, so if I draw a line like this which is parallel to the sunlight, okay, if I draw a line parallel to the sunlight along which the observer is observing, something like this, okay, then this, you would notice that this violet light would be coming out, at an angle of 41 degrees, okay, and red light would be coming out at an angle of 43 degrees. Okay, so the observer would be over here, which we will show that using another diagram, okay, how observer sees a rainbow. Okay, so this is what happens in a primary rainbow. So parallel beam of sunlight which is getting dispersed at these angles produce a cone of rays at the observer's eye. Okay, we'll draw another figure to show that. Thus the rainbow will be seen as a colorful arc to the observer, with its inner edge as violet color and outer edge as the red color in case of this primary rainbow. Okay, now coming to the secondary rainbow. So we know there are two internal reflections happening over here and two refractions happening over here. So again let us consider sunlight this side. So when sunlight is made incident, something like this, let's take it at this point because there will be two internal reflections happening over here. Let's take it. So if the sunlight is made incident on the raindrop like this, there will be a refraction happening over here. So again a dispersion would be happening. So there will be different colors coming out. So let us mark this red and violet, the upper and the down one. So let us see that the red color is coming in like this. The violet, let's represent with the blue line. So there will be one internal reflection happening now next. So this would be something like this, and there will be another reflection, internal reflection at this position over here. Okay, so at this point, so this would be internally reflected the second time now. Okay, and the red color like this. Okay, and finally there will be second refraction happening here. So at this point the first refraction happened, the first internal reflection, second internal reflection, and now the second refraction is happening. So this would be refracting out, bending of light. This would be coming out like this, and this would be coming out like this after bending. So let's mark the arrows. So this went like this, and finally it came out. So if I mark a line parallel to sunlight, okay, you will see that, you will notice that the red light over here is going to come out making an angle of 51 degrees, and the violet light is going to come out making an angle of 54 degrees. So the inner red ray emerges from the water drop at an angle of 51 degrees, and the outer violet ray is going to emerge out at an angle of 54 degrees. So now let us see how an observer sees this rainbow, how the ray of light reaches our eye and we see that wonderful arc. So now we will draw individually the red and violet rays for primary as well as secondary rainbow. So let us start with the primary rainbow. Supposing the sunlight is coming from this side. Let us say the sunlight is coming from this side as a parallel beam of light. Okay, so first let us consider violet light getting refracted. So we have considered 4 raindrops over here. So let us say this is the parallel beam of light falling on the raindrop. So now this is violet. Okay, let's take it as blue. Something like this. So it would be refracting. So this is, I'm drawing a primary rainbow over here. So one internal reflection, the second internal reflection, and then it would be going down. Okay, the observer is here, so it is going down towards the observer, let's say. Okay, let's draw an eye over here, an observer's eye. Okay, this is observer's eye. So this ray reached over here, making an angle of, let's draw an horizontal line. So this is making an angle of, for a primary, we know that the angle made by the violet light is 41 degrees. So this is 41 degrees made over here. Let's mark the arrows. Okay, then the primary rainbow red light, this would come like this. Get refracted, get internally reflected, and it would emerge out making an angle of 43 degrees and would reach the observer's eye. So this angle over here is going to be 43 degrees. This angle is going to be 43 degrees. Let's mark the arrows. Okay, so if you see over here, the parallel beam of sunlight is getting dispersed at these angles of 41 and 43, and the remaining colors, the intermediate colors, will be dispersed at intermediate angles between 41 and 43. The angle with which those colors will be dispersed will be between 41 and 43. So this parallel beam of sunlight getting dispersed at these angles are going to produce a cone like this. Okay, they are going to produce a cone like this at the observer's eye, and therefore the rainbow will be seen as an arc. So this rainbow, how the rainbow would look like? The rainbow would look something like this. So this is going to be a red arc, and a violet arc, something like this. This is going to be your primary rainbow, okay, such that your inner edge would be violet, inner edge is going to be violet, and the outer edge is going to be red in this case. Okay, so now let us see what happens in the case of the secondary rainbow. So we'll consider the ray of red light first falling on the raindrop like this. So here we know there will be 2 refractions happening and 2 internal reflections happening. So first reflection, internal reflection, there will be second internal reflection, okay, and there will be another refraction happening, and this ray of light would be coming towards the observer like this. Let's mark the arrows. So ray came something like this, got reflected again, got refracted now, and came to the observer. So this angle over here made by the red light, okay, from the secondary rainbow is going to be 51 degrees as discussed before. This is going to be 51 degrees. Okay. Next, let us see the violet light now. So again, this is going to be coming something like this. Okay. Get refracted, first reflection, second reflection, second refraction, and then would come to the observer, making an cone at the observer's eye. Okay, and then it would make an angle of, this angle is going to be 54 degrees. Okay, so this is how the secondary rainbow will be formed, such that the inner edge over here is going to be red in color and the outer edge is going to be violet color. So basically this is going to be like this. This is going to be a violet like this. So this becomes your secondary rainbow. So this is formation of primary and the secondary rainbow process. So the next topic we have here is optical instruments. So what are optical instruments? These are basically the devices which makes use of mirrors, lenses, prisms, and the primary use is to extend the range of vision of human eye. So the microscopic level, which you cannot see using your normal eye, okay, that can be seen by using a microscope, which is an optical instrument. The far objects, for example, different planets or astronomical objects, okay, these are not seen by normal eyes clearly, correct? So this can be made possible by using telescopes. So telescope is an optical instrument. So for viewing tiny objects we use microscope. For viewing a distant object clearly we use telescope. So all these things are optical instruments. So now what is the purpose of using this optical instrument? So the first purpose of using the optical instrument is that to form the image of close lying objects. Supposing the object is lying very close to your eye, so it won't be clearly visible to you. So to make the images of these close lying objects at the least distance of distinct vision, that is, it should be clearly seen to you. Okay, the unclear object which are placed very near to your eye should be clearly seen. So that is the first purpose. The second purpose is that, so to form image of close lying object. The second purpose of using optical instrument is that to increase the visual angle and hence obtain the magnification. So a microscopic object is there, you have to magnify and see it to see it very much clearly and study on it. So that is to obtain magnification is the second purpose. And the third purpose is that to improve the resolving power of the eye. That is, basically you need to have adequate resolution of whatever you see. You should be able to see the objects clearly and distinctly. Okay, so that is the third purpose, that is to improve the resolving power. So that is the third purpose of using an optical instrument. Now what are the essential features required for an optical instrument? What features does optical instrument need to have? The first one is high magnification. The first one is high magnification. The optical instrument should give you A good magnification, what is magnification? It is the ratio of size of final image to the size of object. So an optical instrument with high magnification would make you view more clearly and comfortably by increasing the size of the image. So image size will be increased, okay, and you will be able to see the image very clearly and comfortably. Second feature the optical instrument should have is adequate resolution. So what is a resolution? Resolution is basically the ability to resolve the image of two closely spaced objects so that they can be seen separately. So if you have very tiny objects which are placed very close to each other, okay, so optical instruments should make them view distinctly and properly, okay, they should be seen very much clearly as if they are very much separate from each other, okay. So this is resolution, so that is the ability to resolve the image, okay, so that the image can be seen with very fine details. So this ability is nothing but a resolution. So an optical instrument should have an adequate resolution so that it can reveal the fine details of the object. The image of the object can reveal the finest detail of that particular object. So that is why these features are very much important here. Now there is an important term here called accommodation. So now what exactly is this accommodation? So accommodation is the ability of an eye lens due to which it can change its curvature or the focal length so that image at various distances can be formed on the same retina. That means your object may be lying at infinity, or your object may be lying at the least distance of distinct vision, or maybe before that, very close to your eye, okay. The object should be formed on the retina because that is the screen that is fixed, okay. So accommodation is the ability of changing the focal length of the eye, that is basically the lens of the eye or the curvature, okay. So how this is changed? This is changed by adjusting the ciliary muscles. The ciliary muscles will be adjusted automatically so that focal length is of the eye lens is adjusted, okay. Accordingly, the image of any object, may it be lying at the infinity, may it be lying near to your eye, it will be formed on the retina, okay. By the adjustment of this ciliary muscles, the focal length will be changed. The focal length of the eye lens is going to be changed. So now how exactly will you able to see a far off object if the object is at infinity? How the ciliary muscles will adjust themselves so that focal length is going to change, and how the image will be formed on the retina, that we will see. So while viewing a far off objects, so the ciliary muscles are going to be completely relaxed in this case. The ciliary muscles are going to be completely relaxed in this case. The eye lens is going to be very much thin and its focal length is going to be maximum. Okay, I'll repeat myself. When the far off object are to be viewed, the ciliary muscles in this case are going to be completely relaxed so that the eye lens is going to be very much thin and the focal length over here is going to be maximum. What is the focal length of an eye? The distance between the eye lens and the retina becomes the focal length because the image will be formed at the focus. So distance from here to here becomes the focal length, that is the distance between the eye lens and the retina becomes the focal length. So while viewing a far off object, this focal length is going to be maximum because your lens is becoming thin in this case. The lens is becoming thin over here. So the rays which are coming from a distant object are going to be parallel and they will be focused at the retina as shown in the figure. So this is going to happen while viewing the far off object, that is your ciliary muscles are going to be completely relaxed and the focal length is going to be maximum. So now for viewing the nearby object, the ciliary muscles are going to get contracted in this case. So the eye lens is going to bulge out like this. Okay, so what will happen to the focal length? The focal length will be reduced. The length of the focal length is going to be reduced and hence the object image will be formed exactly on the retina. This is going to focus this ray of light which is coming from the nearby object. We have marked the object distance as 25 centimeter, that is the near point. Okay, so the rays of light which is coming from this nearby object is going to get converged on the retina. So here what is going to happen? The ciliary muscles are going to get contracted, the lens is going to get bulged out, and the focal length will be reduced, so that the rays of light which is coming from a nearer object are focused on the retina. So now let us see some important terms related over here. So the first one is a range of normal vision. So in what range a normal eye can view clearly? Okay, that is range of normal vision. So due to accommodation property of the eye lens, the normal eye can clearly see the object which are situated anywhere between infinity. So it is between infinity to 25 centimeter from the eye. Okay, so from eye. So this is the range of normal vision. So if your object is lying in between the 25 centimeter from your eye to infinity in this distance, okay, it is going to be seen very much clearly. So if the object lies at a distance less than 25 centimeter from the eye, okay, so supposing the object is lying very much closer, let's say object is over here at a distance lesser than 25 centimeter, what is going to happen in this case is the ciliary muscles, okay, are going to not get bulged out, okay, the eye lens anymore. Okay, the bulging property of the eye lens would be limiting itself, so it won't be bulging out anymore. Okay, if you get an object very much closer. So in the previous case also we saw, to see a nearby object the ciliary muscles get contracted and the eye lens gets bulged out, so it would bulge out to the maximum capacity. So if you still keep on getting the object closer and closer to your eye, it won't be able to bulge out anymore. The eye lens won't be able to bulge out anymore. So what will happen in that case? The object will be seen blurred. Okay, so ciliary muscles cannot bulge out the eye lens anymore in that case, and the object won't be focused on the retina and will appear blurred. So in that case what is going to happen is the ray of light would be coming from the object which is lesser than 25 centimeter, that is the distance, least distance of distinct vision, and in this case the object will be formed behind the retina. So object won't be formed on the retina, I mean the image won't be formed on the retina, and it will be formed behind the retina, and as a result this will be a blurred image. Okay, so I'll repeat myself. So due to accommodation property of the eye lens, a normal eye will be able to see between the 25 centimeter, supposing this distance is 25 centimeter from the eye. Okay, so between 25 centimeter to infinity, so in between this distance, okay, this is the range of normal vision. So object lying in between over here will be seen clearly by a normal eye. So if object lies within this 25 centimeter from the eye lens, what would happen? The image will not be formed on the retina, because the maximum capacity of bulging out of an eye lens is already done. It won't be able to bulge out more. Okay, and the object will be not seen clearly, and the image which is formed is blurred out. Okay, that is the first point. The second term over here is least distance of distinct vision. Least distance of distinct vision. So the minimum distance from the eye at which an eye can see the object clearly and distinctly without any strain is called as the least distance of distinct vision. So as discussed earlier, this least distance of distinct vision for a normal eye is 25 centimeter. So if the object is lying in front of your eyes at 25 centimeter, you will be able to see it clearly. You get it beyond that, you get it more nearer, it will be blurred out. So 25 centimeter is the least distance of distinct vision, wherein it is the minimum distance from the eye. It is the minimum distance from the eye. Supposing your eye is over here, okay, so it is minimum distance from the eye. So object is lying over here, so that is 25 centimeter. This is the minimum distance from the eye to see the object clearly and distinctly without any strain on the eye. So that becomes the least distance of distinct vision. The third point is near point. The third term is the near point. So the nearest point from the eye at which object can be seen clearly by the eye is called as the near point. So for a normal eye, this near point is going to be 25 centimeters. So object lying at 25 centimeter is seen clearly. You get it at 24 centimeter, you won't be able to see it. So 25 centimeter is called as the near point, where the object will be seen clearly by a normal eye. There will be something called as far point also. There will be something called as far point also. So what will be a far point? The farthest point from the eye at which object can see clearly. So for a normal eye, the far point is infinity. So the farthest point from the eye at which the object can be seen clearly is called as the far point of that eye. Next, we are going to look at the defects of vision and their corrections, how these defects in the vision can be corrected. So as we know, a normal eye can see the objects clearly at a distance between 25 centimeter and infinity from the eye. So sometimes the human eye gradually loses its power of accommodation. What is power of accommodation? It is basically the variation in its power on focusing the near and far objects. We have learned what is accommodation already, that is adjustment of the ciliary muscles to see the far and near objects distinctly is accommodation. So power of accommodation is how well or how much is the power of your eye to vary the focusing level, okay, of far objects in near objects. That is power of accommodation. So the human eye is going to gradually lose its power of accommodation with the age or maybe due to some defect in the eye. So then we would not be able to see the objects clearly. Our vision is going to get defective. So there are mainly 4 common defects in the vision which can be corrected by using suitable eyeglasses. Okay, so the defects are, the first one is myopia or nearsightedness. So myopia or nearsightedness is a defect in the eye wherein a person will be able to see the nearby objects very much clearly, but will not be able to see the distant objects clearly beyond a certain point. Okay, so this is a common defect amongst children. So what is the cause of myopia? So myopia is a defect which is caused due to, maybe the first point is the eyeball gets elongated. That is the first reason. The eyeball may get elongated along the axis so that the distance between the eye lens and the retina becomes larger. Okay, so that is the cause, the first cause. The second cause may be the focal length of the eye lens becomes too short due to the excessive curvature of cornea. Okay, so due to the increased curvature of cornea, the focal length will become short and the image will not be formed on the retina. So how exactly this works? So in myopia and or short-sightedness, the parallel rays which are coming from the distant object as shown in the figure here do not meet at the retina. So they are going to meet at a point which is in front of retina, that is point I, which is shown in the figure over here. So the distant object will not be seen clearly. So the object has to be moved closer to the eye to a point F to focus it on the retina. So maybe some point F over here. So the object which is lying at the infinity has to be shifted at this point so that this eye can clearly see this object and the image is formed on the retina. So thus the far point for a myopic eye, okay, is not infinity, because they cannot see the infinite object, the object which is placed at infinity. So the far point for a myopic eye is not infinity, but it is few meters from the eye. So how this myopia is corrected? So for correcting the myopia, we use a concave lens. The focal length of the concave lens will be equal to the distance of far point of that particular eye, the myopic eye. Okay, so the distance of the far point will be equal to the focal length of the concave lens which is used for correction, and this lens is going to diverge the parallel rays which are coming from the distant object as if they are coming from that far point, that is F. point F. Okay, so they will be converged as if they are coming from this far point, and finally the eye lens forms a clear image on the retina. So the image will be formed on the retina over here, this point I as shown in the figure. So the second eye defect we have is hypermetropia or long-sightedness. So in this defect, the person will able to see the distant objects clearly, the far objects clearly, but will not be able to see the nearby objects clearly. The causes of hypermetropia is that the first one is eyeball becomes too small along its axis, so that the distance between eye lens and retina is reduced. That is, the focal length of the eye lens becomes very much large. Okay, so that are the two causes of hypermetropia. So as a result of this cause, what is going to happen in this case is the rays which are coming from the object, which are placed at 25 centimeter, that is the near point of the eye for a normal eye, from the eye, meet at a point behind the retina. So the image will be formed behind the retina in this case as shown in the figure, and the object will not be seen clearly. So to focus this rays again on the retina, the object has to be moved away from the eyes at a distance greater than 25 centimeter. So since the person is not able to see the object which is kept within 25 centimeter or at 25 centimeter, so what we'll have to do is we'll have to shift that object, okay, more than 25 centimeter where he can exactly see that object. So this defect in the eye, that is hypermetropia, can be rectified by using a converging lens, that is a convex lens, okay, so that the image is formed on the retina and not behind the retina. The next defect is the presbyopia. So this defect is similar to hypermetropia, that is, a person having this defect cannot see the nearby objects distinctly but will able to see the distant object without any difficulty. So this defect differs from hypermetropia in the cause. Okay, the causes of the hypermetropia and presbyopia is different by the cause by which they are produced. So it usually occurs in an elderly person due to the stiffening of the ciliary muscles. The eye lens loses its flexibility and hence the accommodating power of the eye lens decreases. Like hypermetropia, this defect can be corrected by using a convex lens of suitable focal length. Okay, so this is due to aging. The ciliary muscles get stiffened and the eye lens is going to lose its flexibility, and hence the accommodating power of the eye lens is going to decrease, because of which the objects which are placed nearby will not be seen and the objects which are placed far will be seen distinctly. So the cause is different, but the defect remains the same and the rectification remains the same over here. So the next defect we have is astigmatism. So this defect occurs when cornea is not perfectly in spherical shape. Okay, so it may have a large curvature in a vertical plane than in the horizontal plane, or vice versa. If one looks at a wire mesh with such a defect in the eye, the focusing in the vertical plane may not be as sharp as horizontal plane, or it might be vice versa. Astigmatism results in lines in one direction well focused, while those in the perpendicular direction will be distorted or curved as shown in the figure. So if you see this image, one of the lines will be focused, another lines might be seen distorted because of astigmatism. So how this defect can be corrected? So astigmatism can be corrected by using a lens whose one surface is cylindrical. Okay, so cylindrical lens will be used over here. Such a surface focuses the rays in one plane but not in the perpendicular plane. That is why the cylindrical lens is used here. So by suitably choosing the radius of curvature and axis, the direction of the cylindrical surface, astigmatism can be corrected. So the way in which the correction is provided is by using the cylindrical lens over here.